Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out. This is Love Now Media's Humanity AI Advocacy Lunch. This is the fourth lunch we're doing in this series, and this will actually be the final, at least for this season. We have talked about some very interesting things at the intersection of AI and humanity and society. And it's been so cool to learn from community members and our guest speakers. And so I'm excited to present today's program, which is focused on artificial intelligence, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and public policy. I thought it was important to use these words or these letters, the acronym DEI, because it's gone away. We're not really considering diversity, equity, and inclusion in the way we think about policy these days, just due to the state of the world, the state of our government, and its approach to creating policy. But I think it's very important to bring it up as it relates to the AI space. So I just want to give you all a little bit of background about why I'm doing this series. So I'm the founder of Love Now Media. For those of you I don't know, hello. So nice to meet you. I was a very early adopter to artificial intelligence and using the tools as a media professional. I was very excited to learn about what the bots could do, from ChatGPT to Opus Clip to all of the cool little gadgets and tools that were on the internet. And about 6 months into being an enthusiast, I started to see that there could be a lot of harm in the AI space. One, through the way the tools are designed. A lot of the tools are trained based on ideas that are harmful. These tools are not necessarily trained on diverse, equitable, and inclusive practices. The people who are profiting most from the building and monetizing of these tools are usually not from diverse communities. And so there's a trickle-down effect. I thought it was very important to bring that into this conversation today because there are also opportunities to think about how we can shape policy that ensures that Black, Brown, Hispanic, diverse communities actually can use the tools and can benefit from them. So these conversations are both conversations that an AI enthusiast can lead, and also someone who is an activist advocating for better policy, better regulation, and better guardrails. So that is what is happening here today. I'm so excited to welcome three dynamic voices. We have two. Councilmember Kendra Brooks may not be able to make it, but we have Christopher Norris who will join us today. Chris, raise your hand, please. And we have State Representative Darisha Parker who's here. Thank you both so much for being here today. And so I'll give a bit of context for today's conversation, and then we'll welcome our guests up. Is that all right with everyone? All right, is everyone enjoying the food? Okay, great. All right, so AI can absolutely be a tool for equity when equitable policies are in place. So of course, in education, there are AI tools like Khan Academy's Kamingo, which Mike O'Brien presented to us in our last session. They give personalized one-on-one instruction to help students. If you think about also students who may have dyslexia or other forms of educational hurdles, AI can be a tool to help and support students. So AI can be great there. It can be a great tool for economic mobility. When we think about resume tools, some people are able to improve their resumes and are able to access better jobs due to the use of AI. And then we have, of course, healthcare access and storytelling. AI can help with all of these things if it's understood and if there's access to it. However, there is a digital divide. Not everyone has access to the internet. Not everyone can pay for some of the tools. So for example, if you use a free version of an AI tool, the exchange is that it uses your data, it uses your information to train its tool. If you use a paid version, you have access to ways to better protect your data and to do different things. And so if there's no access to various levels of tools, then sometimes it's a little harder for people to access what they need in order to really use AI in a way that makes them competitive, both in the workforce and in education. 77% of new AI jobs being created require a master's or doctoral degree. As AI is taking off, there are a lot of people who are losing their jobs. And we can see that this is a major shift that will be happening in the workforce. Some people said as early as maybe 2027, we're going to start seeing entire industries just laying off people. We're already seeing it, but we're going to see massive shifts. And so the AI jobs are requiring folks who have these advanced degrees to be able to come in and compete. They're no longer just hiring undergraduate students who say went to school for IT. There are a lot of people who went to school who are finding themselves without jobs at this point. And there's still very low AI literacy. So we talk a lot about students in education, but a lot of the teachers don't even know how to use AI. So we have students that are doing things, putting their data in, and we have teachers who don't even know how to support the students with some of the AI usage. With that, there's a great need for thinking about policies and practices that design equity and inclusion into the AI space. And I want to start by asking Chris Norris to join me to talk about both narrative and to talk about education and the ways we can think about building equitable tools into both narrative preservation and into the educational space. So welcome, Chris, and let's give Chris a round of applause. Great, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. Before we dive into your work, actually, can you introduce yourself and just tell us about the work you do?
Sure. Chris Norris. Is this one?
I think it is.
1, 2, there we go.
Okay, better.
Chris Norris, also go by Flood or Flood the Drummer. Hey, good to see you, man. I'm currently the Chief Strategy and Program Innovation Officer at StoryCorps. We're a national nonprofit organization for the last 22 years in collecting and preserving the stories of everyday people. Prior to that, I served as the Managing Director for Community Engagement at WHYY, building up their community engagement program in their TV portfolio. And then for 10 years in the market, I ran my own grassroots publication called Tech Book Online, covering police, politics, and protests. So I guess I've been in the media business for 15 years. And prior to that, I was a professional drummer, which is where Flood the Drummer comes from.
Are you making any connections between AI and your drumming? Just gotta ask.
No, not yet.
Okay.
But I thought about, and I'm really interested in, I know robots scare people. I'm actually interested in the idea of owning a robot, and particularly one that I can teach my skills to. And maybe you have a league of robots who go out and give drum lessons to kids.
Wow, okay, cool. I'd love to hear, Chris, first, how are you using AI first in your life, and then how are you using AI in your work?
Yeah, let me just say before I get into that I was always very curious about AI, but I have to give Josh credit for really making me a fanatic. We were having dinner and she goes, "Have you used ChatGPT?" And I said, "No, but I've been reading about it." And we spent 5 minutes, 10 minutes over the table, and I was like, "Oh, I see what this could do. This is game changing," and I've been diving deep ever since. On the personal level, I transcribe a lot of my meetings that I'm in at work, and then I upload transcripts and look for patterns and try to contextualize and give character to my leadership style and understand exactly like, how am I coming across? Where it could be better? Where can I sharpen my focus? Are there patterns in my communication over time that stand out that I should be emphasizing or de-emphasizing? I use it for, I've used AI to create trivia questions for drinking games. And I use it sometimes just to have a thought partner, someone who's truly objective, especially when you ask it to be objective. One of my favorite questions to AI, and I've not got to the point where I've given my AI a name. I haven't gone that far. But I do often ask AI at times if I'm working on something for, whether it's a personal project or a presentation at work, I often say repeatedly, act as a cynical colleague who often disagrees with me. Point out all the rational disagreements or points of difference that this person would have and help me think about how to overcome them. And so that just helps me, again, probe my own ideas, find my own blind spots. And it often really works. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that. And then I can start to work on the objections.
Great. So can you talk about your work at StoryCorps, particularly with the Brightness in Black work? I think it's a really interesting initiative.
Yeah.
And it's one that intersects with like narrative justice, really, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if you could just share with our audience what that initiative is and what its goals are.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. So Brightness in Black is StoryCorps' newest initiative focused on collecting and sharing bold cultural stories while countering harmful narratives about the Black experience. At the core of this project is a powerful narrative concept called asset framing, which is about defining people by their aspirations and their contributions before acknowledging their challenges. It's important because in news and media, a lot of stories about Black folks starts with their hardships and their obstacles and their challenges. And while those challenges are real, when you start there, you reinforce stereotypes, you can exacerbate stigma, and you limit the reader or the viewer's ability to see the full humanity and full potential in someone. But when you lead with their aspirations and their contributions, you change the entire narrative. You create room for stories of hope, triumph, innovation, resilience, and it shows that person as a full person. And so that's what we've been doing, is finding the stories of Black people in Philadelphia and Atlanta and across the country and telling them. In 2025, we aired 10 stories on NPR on Morning Edition through the calendar year 2025. And then when we looked at the impact report in 2026, we found that over 75% of NPR listeners said those broadcasts helped them better understand the Black experience and better understand Black and brown people and people who are different from them. And so the play here now is thinking about amplification and distribution. How do you get those stories in front of as many people as possible, both in front of the Black audiences, because sometimes it's very easy for us to internalize the stereotypes and negative narratives we consume, but also in front of the dominant cultures who sometimes propagate those narratives. And the news ecosystem plays a really significant part because a lot of the dominant narratives that we're trying to counter, whether it's Black families are broken, Black fathers are good, Black youth are the catalyst for violence, they all find root in the news ecosystem. And they grow through public dialogue, and then they inform policy, and then that policy impacts the quality of life. And so it's a cycle. And so what we're looking at core is really disrupting that cycle.
Great. So in hearing about how these narratives have now changed the way people think about really the Black community, the Black experience, when you think about AI and humanity and really pairing AI with the work that you've done at StoryCorps, what are some of the ways you are thinking about using AI for education and for empathy building?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll try to answer it without giving away any trade secrets or talking about anything that's in the work.
Okay.
StoryCorps has this really large archive. Over 20 years we've collected these stories. That's resulted in over 700,000 participants. It's the largest collection of human voices ever assembled. And in the training data is really rich, instructive context on how humans talk, how they are vulnerable, those natural pauses, empathy. I think we probably have a serious empathy engine. And so I think there's potential to help. Like there's two plays. There's a play where you could theoretically, the archive could be used as a training corpus for ChatGPT or Claude. Or, and this is where I find to be much more interesting, is the concept of a human wisdom model. And this is the idea that it's a large language model built specifically for understanding the human experience and being able to connect through empathy, right? So imagine a consumer or two consumers from opposite ends of the country, and they're both asking a question about grief. How do I deal with the loss of a father? And instead of going to ChatGPT or Claude, which a lot of people are doing, and they're going to these chatbots for mental health and for companionship, but they are getting synthetic human experience. They're not actually talking to something that is actually lived. They're talking to something that has replicated a lived experience. But if you could talk directly to a corpus that represents a truly diversified lived experience and could ask what it's like to deal with grief, and not only get context, but also get stories from people who have gone through this. And then imagine further, if those two people who asked the same questions were notified that someone else asked the question that you asked, would you like to be paired for a conversation? So it takes that human connection to the next level where you're not just getting insight into humanity, but the actual engine is acting as a connector of humanity too. So all of that to say, I think a lot about AI in the work today is a big part of my job is trying to think about the strategy for StoryCorps. What's our sustainable competitive advantage over time? What's our differentiator? How do we stand out in the market? And what I see is you put it up there earlier, as synthetic content floods the market, as content becomes easier to create, the biggest bottleneck for content creation at a time was production. It was labor intensive, it was costly, you had to have equipment, you had all that. AI has brought all of that down, especially when you think about like tools like Sora. And so now anybody can create content, and synthetic content floods the market. And what I think it showed us, and we talked about this, is it's not about anymore whether or not you can create content. The new bottleneck is meaning. Because you can see that people can create content, people don't care about it. It's, are you creating content that people actually care about? And so what I think is the kind of mantra that I repeat to myself in this moment is human is the new premium. And what that means for me is it's about two market failures that are coinciding. One is people want content that was created by humans more and more as synthetic content floods. So it's creating that premium. But then two, the output of said content. Right now, it's optimized for polarization, it's optimized for outrage. But what if human-generated content was also optimized for human connection? And if you could solve that dual market failure with one archive or one human wisdom model, you create a sustainable competitive advantage over time. That's where my head is.
I love that, and I think it reminds me of the way I think at Love Now Media when I'm thinking about love and humanity and connection. But I also realize that this is the same kind of content that is also being exploited. So as you talk about Sora was ChatGPT's video making tool. Can I see your hand if you've heard of or used Sora before? Okay, so Sora is no longer in the marketplace because it was canceled. It was putting out what they would call too much AI slop. But do you all know that one of the reasons it failed is because Martin Luther King's estate sued them because they were making so many fake Martin Luther King videos and speeches. So there were, I have a dream, they would take his voice, his vocal cadence, and the I have a dream message and would pair that with some extremely ridiculous thought. And this was actually flooding the internet. And this caused a major lawsuit. So it was stuff like this that has actually now been exploited. So when you say something like Dr. Martin Luther King and his I Have a Dream speech, that can seem sacred in like Black communities where we revere that speech, and the speech has helped to really frame a vision for a more equitable society. But when it's paired with AI, it can now be used to basically exploit an idea. And I think the same thing tends to happen for those of us who engage in sacred practices. So when you think about something like, I'll say, for example, I do African dance, right? So I always talk about ancestral intelligence in addition to artificial intelligence or ancestral inheritance. And I went to an African dance class and I was thinking, oh, wow, I need to record this movement and the way that it's being transferred from one generation to the next. And I was thinking this will make a great Instagram video. Then it occurred to me, maybe not. Everything doesn't need to Right. And so that was a very alarming thought, because if our empathy, if our ancestral intelligence gets in the wrong hands, it can then be exploited and manipulated and used like against our communities and against humanity, right? So I just wonder, as you're thinking about this, my last question, are you thinking about any potential guardrails that need to be in place for you all to feel safe or excited about creating this empathy? Do you think anything needs to be in place? Are there any policies that you would like to see that would protect these narratives or these ideas as you think about making these connections?
It's a big question.
Hope it's not too big. Sorry, friend.
What I would say is, there's a part of me, there's the world as it should be, and then there's the world as it is. And the world as it should be would be regulation rich, and it would have been preventative. Everything is responsive now because the horse isn't just out the barn, it's down the street. And I don't think that America's in a paradox where you're in this AI arms race with China, which we're losing. And no one at the federal level wants to be heavy on regulation when we're trying to beat a country that's already winning. So I don't know what the policies would be. Yes, there should be policies, particularly around copyrights and protecting people's copyrights. People are building new contents and new ideas off of wisdom that the machine has already ingested, but it's almost impossible to tell. You could create a lawsuit and say this person created work that was a derivative of mine and he used AI, but it would be almost impossible to prove that because the person could just say, I was just really inspired by that. And I hear what you're saying about.
I agree, but there are also images of people that are like exact replications of actors on TV shows and things like that. That deep fakes are being made.
Oh, no, 100%, right? So thank you for that, because I think, and there are some cities that are actually very particular about deep fakes as a felony, particularly as it relates to minors, as it relates to revenge porn and things like that. I think that is probably the most serious consequence of this AI revolution. Is it has gotten so good that even the most media literate person sometimes has trouble telling and differentiating what is that? I'm less concerned, and it's also gotten really good. I don't know if you guys are watching the Iran propaganda with the Legos things that they're making fun of Trump, but that stuff is brilliant. but the point is also, when this stuff gets into the wrong hands, particularly foreign adversaries who want to cause chaos in our democracy, when you have a contested presidential election like what we're going to have in 2028, or even a really consequential midterm election, the amount of propaganda that can flood the market. In a city like Philadelphia, where the median education level is probably like a 4th or 5th grade reading level, it's not very sophisticated, like media literacy community, that can do serious damage. And what I have been disappointed in is our political class. When you think about city council, I know most of them, all well-meaning, good-intentioned people, right? Maybe not the most technical, sophisticated, or the most in-depth in AI. They probably have other things to think about. But there's supposed to be an AI report coming out in the spring of this month or next month from the city of Philadelphia, but it's focusing largely on guardrails around how to use AI in the city. And I don't think we have gone far enough. I don't think the city's talking enough about upskilling and job transition. I don't think the city's talking enough about the impact that deepfakes can have on our democracy and civic life. And they're certainly not talking about the impact that it's going to have on the cultural creative economy, people who create art. This is something that we should have, as a city, have been holding hearings about 2-3 years ago. Now we're just starting to talk about hearings. China is building data centers underwater, and we're talking about a water bankruptcy because of data centers. They have taken innovation where in America, innovation is considered a practice of skill, and in China, innovation is considered a practice of life. And so they just innovate as a course of going about doing things. They're so far ahead of us in the way that we think. And in America, we're sitting and talking about regulating deepfakes and how we're going to upskill. And that's something that places like China have already thought about. So I am, not to be a damper, but I'm not incredibly hopeful what the future looks like for a city like Philadelphia, because I don't think that the leadership has a grasp on what is actually happening. And so if my forward-looking prowess is based on the competency of today's leadership, then I'm not helpful. I'm not hopeful. You have enough hope for us all.
Well, yeah, and actually, that's one of the reasons why we are here today. We've called people together. Oh, hi, everyone. So many people have come in. Hi, beautiful people. We have called people together to have these conversations. And thank you, because you're always so wise, even without the hope today. But we've called people together to be having these conversations now, because I could not wait for city council.
Yeah.
Like I know Rue Landau, who is leading the technology initiatives, and she says, I have budget hearings today. Okay, she couldn't make it, but we're still here because we need to be talking about what's happening with AI and our communities. And we need to be thinking about what kinds of policies will protect us, what kinds of guardrails need to be in place, and how we can not only be competitive in terms of a corporate industry, but how we can be safe. Because I actually think AI can be incredibly dangerous if it's in the wrong hands. And so that is why we're here today.
If I could just say one thing in response to you really quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to give context so that I don't want people walking out thinking I'm a nihilist. What I am saying is I am not hopeful if it's based on the competency and action of our political system and the political will. But what you are doing and what other people are doing is the market is correcting itself, right? And so I have hope that the market will fill the void where our political leadership isn't. I am hopeful that thought leaders, civic leaders, media makers, storytellers, advocates, and educators and scholars will come in and do the right thing. And they'll amplify the type of policy that we'll need. They'll push it forward. They'll convene the public dialogue. They'll centralize the thought leadership. They'll amplify the thought leadership. And in some cases, we are in the middle of an industrial revolution. This is not just a bunch of chatbots popping up. This is going to be the biggest technological industrial revolution of our lifetime. And the fact that we don't have en masse, not just in city council, in your Congress, at the federal level, it's not talked about with that level of urgency. It's not understood that this is going to change everything. And so this isn't just about whether or not people have a subscription to a free tier or chatbot. This is, do we understand that the rules of society are being rewritten every day, from everything from education, entertainment, and that we are not just behind the ball, we're not holding the ball. So we have to catch up. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Chris, for being here. Can we give Christopher Norris, aka Fletcher, one more round of applause?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this work is incredibly important. Again, I just want to shout a few people out in the room who do incredible work as it relates to narrative. Monique Curry-Mims, who leads Generosity. Thank you, Monique, for being here. Yesenia, I cannot say your last name. Can you say it for me, please? De Moya Correa, okay, who is a journalist and a journalism leader. Thank you for being here. It is so important for people who are leading newsrooms, producing news, to cover AI, to cover what's happening, to cover the policies that are being created, but also to cover what is happening with the data centers, the environmental justice issues. There are so many things that are trickling down into our communities, and people have no idea of how to begin talking about this or challenging what's happening. Some of the harm can be done with a simple release of a new model of these AI platforms. So, for example, Claude has a model, or Anthropic, the company that built Claude, they have a model that they will not release yet. Yeah. Because if they release it, the accuracy of which it could evoke wars and harms, it could blow away humanity, right? I'm not talking about this at my grandmother's house at 29th and Allegheny. You know what I mean? These are the conversations that I'm hoping by you all being here today, you can take these to your dinner tables, to your family conversations, because we need to be paying attention to what's happening in this space. It's affecting every industry. And I think when we think about the Industrial Revolution, there were some aspects of different industries that took off a little bit at a time. There was healthcare doing a thing. There was innovation happening in the automotive sector. There was innovation happening in transportation. With AI, things are rapidly evolving and we can't keep up with it. There's no way, unless we're in communities having conversations like this, that we can think about how do we mobilize? How do we make sure that we're in the know? How do we know? How do we talk to our policymakers about what we need and what's happening? And with that, I would love to invite up State Representative Darisha Parker.
Hi, cutie.
Oh, hi, beautiful.
How you doing?
Good. So,
Y'all can hear me. Put this on.
yes, there it is.
There it is. Y'all can hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Good.
Yes, so first, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely, but I would be remiss. There is a gentleman who is texting me at 5 and 6 in the morning. His name is David. Hello, young man. And if it wasn't for making this connection, I would not be here. So thank you, my queen.
Thank you.
Thank you for this introduction. My name is State Representative Darisha Parker. Full disclosure, I am not here because I'm seeking your vote today because of my reelection. I just need to be clear. Because sometimes us politicians get a bad rap because it's a political season that we're all here. I would be here if I wasn't running for reelection, and I'm gonna be here next year, and I'm gonna be here every time y'all keep me in office.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. I have to always do that full disclosure. I represent the Greater Northwest, which is parts of East and West Oak Lane, Alany, Nicetown, and Logan, and Germantown. I'm very happy that we are a one-seat majority, and I know we're gonna be talking about stuff today. I serve on commerce, insurance, aging and older adults, children and youth, and agriculture, rural affairs, and I hope somebody brings that question up. And I am the vice chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. I'll share with everybody, do not talk to me about Black history in February. I'm Black and historic every damn day. I tell you that all the time. And out of 203 House members, I have the 5th Blackest district. So thank you for having me, and I'm ready to talk.
Yes, I love this. So as we're talking about DEI and public policy, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on
Sure.
what is happening in the communities you serve as it relates to AI. How are people in the communities you serve talking about what's happening with this industry, this technology entering our communities and our spaces so rapidly?
Sure. People can't talk about technology because they're talking about $4 gas. They're talking about high eggs. They're talking about fees. They're talking about how much it costs for them even to leave their house before they even get to work. So when you want to talk about technology, sometimes you're already excluding the population of individuals that are served. And it is small and marginalized, which is very disfortunate. And I share that to say that they're thinking about looking at their phones and looking at, oh my God, all the anxiety because today might be 80 degrees. And what's going to happen? Is there going to be some kind of an incident? Oh my God, now I know I've been getting beat up a lot about this, about the speeding on Broad Street is 25 miles per hour, and how are we going after these certain marginalized community? Here goes another money grab. So before you even talk about the technology, folks is trying to say, how can we live? How can we be in a city that are talking about all of this other stuff, but I can't even take care of my family? So those conversations that you're talking about in technology don't look like rooms like this. I may be talked upon with other individuals, but they don't look like rooms like this. And for me, I'm a numbers person. I look at the numbers of the people who vote in my district, and it's very sometimes disheartening for the part of my district that vote the less. Those are the ones I hear from the most. I'm gonna say it again. The part of the district that vote the less, I hear from the most. My super voters, I may hear from them once a while, but they always know when they send me something, I'm coming to their community meetings, I'm coming to any of their events, and then if I have to ask them to do a fundraiser, they will. So that's pretty much disheartening, but I understand because life is lifing, and right now when you're talking about a color, As I'm talking to you in this room, it's very disheartening. Imagine if you Google my name right now, you will not see legislation that has the name Black in it. Because this is what happens when individuals don't vote and you put an egregious criminal in office who purposely said that he's going to make sure the white get wealthier again and is doing things egregiously, but it's not about him. It's about us, that we just didn't do our own part, and we're in a situation that we're in right now, which is jacked up.
Yeah, I will say.
To do gloom and gloom, but I'm a straight shooter politician. I promised my other colleagues, I know Lent and Ramadan is over, that I won't cuss anymore, but I'm trying. Y'all pushing me today. Flood, they pushing me. I'm trying. I'm trying to keep it G-rated. I'm trying. Okay.
I got it. No, I think it's very important though, because we could have a doom and gloom conversation about AI. I think I could do that if I wasn't an AI person. Like just was an activist, someone who's a leader, who wants to mobilize, very angry about what's happening with AI, from surveillance in our communities to if you think about some of the data centers and how, does everyone understand how it's causing environmental harms and how the electrical grids are actually pulling on the public's, oh look, people are talking, yes. I see fingers going, yes, it's impacting the water, the energy, people's electric bills.
But talk about that, right? There's a group of people in this room and beyond, because you sent individuals like me to Harrisburg. We heard you with those egregious bills. Look what happened to Pico. I just want to give her a shout out. So when you say stuff, we fought and we kicked their behinds so that they did not do what they continuously do to us. Because you know why? Because they know they come before us during budget time, and asking for other things. We said, oh, not now. So imagine what could happen.
Reverend Parker, can you explicitly say what happened with Pico and what happened?
These bills and the egregious fees was getting astronomically out of control. One of the things that we put on them, the utility companies, within the fall months, was that we were going to be slammed with bad winter month and making sure that people's power and everything don't get cut off. So fast forward to now, everyone knows what happens now. And people in the hood, they know what happens. They know that certain times of year, they can go without paying certain bills, so it does come on the ratepayers. And then people come to us like, oh my God, my power is about to be cut off. Baby, that don't mean you don't pay your bills for 6 or 7, 8 months. No pun intended, but you gotta do something. We were able to rally to make sure that we stopped Pico and shut them down as they were about to do with some of these rate hikes. Imagine what could happen if we still galvanize with PGW and the water department. So to me, it's steps. So that means those other utility companies is probably cussing, oh no. If Pico did that, what is about to happen to us? We coming for y'all too. Because one of the main things I share with everybody, the closed mouths don't get fed. And this is not the time for anybody to be quiet about things that are upsetting you, but what are you going to put into action? It's aggravate, it's agitate, and advocate. And where are all of those 3 people that are going to be able to do that?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it's so important for us to also educate.
Yes.
Because if we don't have education in public spaces like this, where we can ask questions, by the way,
yes, ma'am.
There will be an opportunity for questions and for people to come up here, actually offer solutions. This is not just about my facilitation or our key speakers. This is a community event. So if you have something that's coming to mind, there will be an opportunity for you to speak. But I think it's so important for us to also, once you know how to use these tools, so for example, I'm someone who is pretty advanced with the use of AI tools. I have a big, beautiful bill, GPT, to help me navigate.
Don't say big bill. Don't say that.
No. I'm saying that literal bill.
Okay.
I have taken that bill, which I understand was what it will result in a lot of harm to Black and brown communities. I have created a GPT to help me navigate.
Okay.
That all of those policy changes. So I can say, listen, the GPT knows my identity, knows what I care about. And so if I ask it to navigate, are there benefits in this for me and my community? Pull them out. Are there harms? Pull them out. What can I do in this moment to navigate this? So the Project 2025 document, I believe it was 987 pages. I uploaded that into a separate GPT. I could learn, what is it that these folks are trying to do? GPT will tell me. Listen, it's going to say you can't use DEI. It's going to say that these policies
Education.
shouldn't be in place because it creates some kind of racism, but all of that stuff is going to be now reversed. The language that we used to use for civil rights is now going to be reversed to serve non-Black and brown communities. So my
Yes.
GPT gave me a report on exactly how to navigate this. I also have built an Afrofuturist Octavia Butler GPT, which focuses on the Black future and survival, right? That's because I know how to use the tech, right? And so I guess the next series will be teaching people how to use the tech. But I think it's important for us to think about what kind of changes and policies we need to be advocating for to make sure that we're protected. Because a lot of people say we shouldn't be using, for example, AI at all because of the harms. And I say we need to make sure that these tech companies, these big tech companies, there are like 5 of them. There's OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, and one more that I'm missing. They're competing with it. Which one? NVIDIA.
And owned by Microsoft.
Who?
Owned by Microsoft.
Okay, so let's say so with
And
that,
all the ones that you've mentioned,
yeah,
those are the ones that are meeting with lawmakers. So I'm just telling y'all, sometimes to Chris's point, it gets me frustrated because I have to be in a room and being angry because folks are behind. When you start getting inundated with a whole lot of emails and medias and meeting requests, and the companies are tech, and the companies are cannabis, or the companies are all this other kind of stuff, you know the wave is about to come. You know what's about to be, and where are we going to be? When Governor Shapiro months ago announced in his budget address, when he talked about the cellular phone ban in school, where were people in this room up in arms talking about a cellular ban? Because guess what? When things are rolled out, 9 times out of 10, we're still gonna be talking about it. We're gonna do policy on it. We're gonna be talking about legislation, but don't think if it's rolled out that we're not gonna look at how we can or cannot make certain things happen. Because again, we have a majority is in the House, 1 seat, the governor's with us, and then you got the Senate. So if he's rolling something like that out, there should have been pushback from parents to say, wait a minute, hold on. I don't know how I feel. I don't want a school ban for my child in the event something happens. And that's the conversations that certain people like me want to hear about, because then you're giving me something to think about. Right now on that conversation, I'm in the middle because I'm getting from teachers and principals that are saying that their students are using ChatGPT for their tests, for their essays, and all of that, and they're cheating and they're using it to cheat. Yeah. So it's not the child that's thinking, it's the device that's doing the thinking for them. I have the ones that pontificate, but Representative Parker, you should embrace it. Man, I ain't embracing cheating. Like I can't embrace that side of cheating. Right. So that helps you when you're talking about policy. What should that policy look like when somebody then's gonna say, oh, I'm going against their First Amendment freedom of speech? That ain't free.
No, exactly. Especially when you actually have to pay $20 a month to get the better model. Well, yeah, and that also comes with different data protections than the free ChatGPT does. Yes. But there's so much there. But I think Pennsylvania is doing a decent job. Decent. So there are still no laws that cover algorithmic hiring bias. So we have not yet talked about the bias in hiring. These AI tools are trained to review resumes and qualifications and zip codes and the names and all of that. And there is bias baked into the algorithms. Yes. The data center's environmental impact. I haven't heard much about data centers being in Philadelphia directly, but little things are starting to pop up and we need regulation around that. Sure. And then there's, of course, the AI-driven job displacement. People are actively being laid off and replaced by bots. And so we do need some kind of policy. I have here a list, for Parker, of things that have happened. So there's an AI consent disclosure law. The House passed that in 2024. There's a deep fake criminalization, sexual deep fakes and child abuse materials that was presented in 2024. There's a digital forgery law that was presented in 2025. And we have a pending AI in healthcare law. It's a bipartisan bill requiring patient notification when AI is used in care decisions, mandating human review of AI prior prior authorization denials. So that is currently in committee, I believe.
So as you're talking about a lot of the policy, I don't think if anybody, let me give you a fact. Pennsylvania is the fastest growing state for our aging and older adults. I'm gonna say it again. Pennsylvania is one of the fastest growing states for our aging and older adults. And I'm gonna say something I know I'm about to get in trouble. Why? Because we have not raised taxes on that population in a very long time. And, you know, no matter how y'all feeling indifferent, it is what it is, but it also hurts us in other ways. Not saying Red Parker is for raising taxes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're talking about that population of individuals who are wanting us to pass legislation for the COLAs and certain things that they're able to live a better type of life. So as we're talking about technology, one of the challenges I always push against the Pennsylvania Department of Aging, Philadelphia Corporation of Aging, and AARP. I said, where are y'all? Why haven't y'all been convening with the fastest growing population? The main thing that population always talks about is everything that we give to them is so tiny that they can't even read it. So now we're about to bring in technology that they still have to get their grandkids to program everything they have, their phones, their laptops, even their television. So now you're about to bring in this technology. Where do they fit in? How are they gonna order their prescription? How are they gonna go to their doctors? How are they gonna, because I always walk into rooms all the time. I never assume everybody in this room has insurance, correct? So that's another conversation that is also coming about because we're talking about the black and the brown and how many doctors that we are losing even in this space. So to your point, I just want legislation for me to make sense. And one of the things that I always talk to David and others, by us being a state and by me being 203, if there are ideas that you want to work with Dave or anybody else, it's only one phone. But hey, Red Parker, you available for what? I've got legislation, girl. Let me just hook you up with my research department, our attorneys. Y'all go work it out. Let me look at it. That's how simple it is. And I don't look at that I am the expert in every topic. My lane is truly about quality of life. And until we have black and brown individuals and Latinos individuals that are not in a world of poverty, that are not displaced, that people still don't grab their clutches, their purses when they get in elevators, when we're talking about discrimination as it relates to business ownership, as it relates to jobs and on housing, then there's certain legislation that you're not gonna see my name on. Just understand, people get upset at me a lot, and I'm used to that when you see a lot of resolutions. Because what the hell are we resolving? That's just Red Parker. Don't be mad and start saying I'm beating up on anybody that has resolutions. That's just not my lane. My lane is, and I can say it unapologetic, I might be the only that have met with NRA. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. So I'm telling you, when I'm telling you I'm intentional about my work, I'm that woman that's intentional about their work, because you have to go meet the wealthiest policy decision makers that make or kill your legislation.
And we thank you for that.
I thank you.
Yes, thank you so much to
Thank you.
Rep. Darisha Parker for being here with us. Okay, I will say from this particular conversation, my hope is these 4 things is that we demand AI literacy. A lot of people are nervous about AI. They don't want to become literate. Anyone in that boat? Is there anyone in here who's just, no, it's AI, I don't want to do it? Okay, that's not this crowd. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I'm still nervous on a lot of this.
Okay.
I feel that it's replacing. I want with my telebank to do my name.
Oh, I got it. I love that. And I think we need to become literate so that we know how to make requests, so that we know both the capabilities and the limitations of the technology. I do think we need to regulate the data centers. There's so many harms. And I've been seeing more people, particularly in the suburbs, like in Montgomery County, protesting. They have signs up saying, no data centers. Data centers are harmful. The water, the electric, all of the environmental issues that come about. There's still no data on how the data centers are actually impacting people's health In the South, there's some places in the South where people have no water, or their communities have had cancer, things like that. And so there's still data being reported. We need to have some kind of an AI Bill of Rights, okay? Because right now, right now we don't actually have that. So we need to know, what are our citizens' rights when it comes to AI? Like, how can we protest being surveilled? How can we protest whether it's the use of these cars? What happens if a car goes wrong? I actually would love to, it's funny that the poet just walked in. In 2011, this is a fun fact about me, everyone. I'm an artist, and I wrote, produced, and staged a play for 5 days about AI in 2011. And I commissioned a poem by a young woman named Sarai Abdul Malik called Human.AI.TY. I actually would like to show that poem after I close this out. But one of the things is about, as the robots and as the technologies come into our communities, what are our rights? What if that Waymo goes to the wrong place? What happens when these machines that we were seeing, the little Amazon boxes or the food delivery robots, what happens if they run someone over or if someone tampers with it? This is all happening very fast. And again, the goal of these conversations is to make sure that we are actively talking, connecting, thinking, and mobilizing so that we can talk to our policymakers and think about the future that we all want to live in. So with that, I do believe that AI regulation is civil rights work. That is the civil rights work for these times. With that, I want to close my computer because it's dying. My battery is going low. And I want to ask if we have anyone who has a solution or something they want to advocate for. Ken, come on up. No, come on up. Let's get you on camera, good brother. Yes, that's great. Just have a seat. 60 seconds, 60 seconds.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ken Miles. I work at Penn. I run a Center for Inclusive Innovation and Technology out of our policy school. More important to this conversation, I'm on the advisory board for Philly Tech Week, which is happening from May 5th through May 8th. So if you don't know about it, go to phillytechweek.com. The theme this year is Tech for the People, which is very relevant to what's being discussed. And I think there's an opportunity to just learn more, and how we learn informs what we share in community. And I think we need these conversations to both accelerate, but also bring into the conversation our unique points of view and perspectives rooted in how we live our lives, how we think about how this actual technology is informing our day-to-day decision-making, the decision-making of my grandmother, to the points that you raised. And I think there's a tremendous need for those voices to elevate this conversation. Hosting a conversation on community-centered innovation on May 5th, so that's my Philly Tech Week shout out. But there's a lot of great programming, so if you don't know, phillytechweek.com. And thank you for your work. Thank you for Love Now's advocacy. We need a lot of conversations to also think about how we're communicating these messages. A lot of times people get frustrated that not enough people know, and that's a communications opportunity. And so for folks like you and Love Now who are taking advantage to accelerate that conversation, we appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Good.
Yes. Anyone else? Let's have David. First of all, I want to give David a big shout out. David, come on up. David encouraged me to keep going. I was feeling a little beat down with these conversations, and I needed to get a policymaker in the room, because what is advocacy for policy without a policymaker? And David was my cultural strategist to get me connected with Kendra Brooks and Representative Parker. So thank you, David, for that work. Thank you. And I would love to just hear what you have to say. What are your solutions? If you could do that in 60 seconds, please.
Yeah, I was actually pondering this because I was sitting on ChatGPT and other models, Perplexity, X, Y, and Z, and asking it about its bias, because I find myself in arguments with the model, right? So I said, look at the Roman who founded the original walls of London. This African man, would we consider him black? Oh no, he's Roman, he's not black. Well, help me. if he's from North Africa and today we think this about people who are from Africa and you're telling me he looked like this and his statue looks like this, is he black? No, he's not black. So now I'm arguing, I'm cussing with the AI model. And finally it gets to the point, I'm so sorry, you're correct, in today's terms we consider him black. Why do you feel this way? I have been trained not to create animosity in populations. So there, right there, policy, right? What does it mean if we were to say that it was illegal to give information that was biased based upon color, gender, creed, X, Y, and Z, so that I wouldn't have to cuss so much anymore?
Thank you, David. You would not be the first one to have to cuss at ChatGPT or an AI. Has anyone else had to cuss at an AI? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, Monique, please come on up. No, come on up. Come on up, Monique Curry Mims.
I just thought that was a funny question because was this, I don't know if they're memes or whatever, I'm not good with social media. It was on Instagram. And it was somebody that was cussing out their Claude, and Claude was like, I'm not going to take this. I'm shutting down for the day. I was just like,
Oh, I'm ready.
Does anyone else have a question, a comment, or a solution that you'd like to share in 60 seconds? Kim? Okay.
Can I stay behind this chair?
Yeah, you can sit in the
I
chair.
didn't want to sit in the chair. Hi, good afternoon to everybody. I ran up here really fast because one, Joss always has me in these rooms I never want to be in. She is the first person who made me get an email address. She is the first person who made me use ChatGPT. Wow. So I've gone from cosmetology to corrections. So now I'm working with women, Division of Reentry, pre-release and post-incarceration. So here's what I want everybody to know. When you think about fear, I want you to face everything and rise. I don't want you to be afraid of ChatGPT. I don't want you to be afraid of AI because we are the ultimate intelligence. What we feed the beast is what makes it grow. So I'm only saying that to say I am extremely emotional, extremely sensitive. But when Joss made me get in the room, she said, "You're losing so much time. You could be doing this, you could be doing that." She sat down, she put the thing in ChatGPT, and I use it to give me an outline. But my intellectual property is in here until I'm ready to deliver it. So I know that this room is very well equipped with AI and ChatGPT, but as somebody who is analog and still has a paper appointment book for her salon of 25 years, I know what it's like to be in both worlds. So we can control the narrative. Remember who you are is my only ask, and control this narrative.
Thank you. Thank you. And actually, I said that Councilmember Kendra Brooks is not able to make it, but we have Kathleen from her office. Kathleen, you want to come on up and join us?
Yeah.
Let's welcome Kathleen. Kathleen, we won't put too much pressure on you. We do thank you for being here. So yeah.
Be nice.
Yeah. Yes, if you could just tell us, I think my biggest questions for Councilmember Brooks were really about, particularly with her representing the working party, the working families party. AI is really impacting work and the way people work. So I really wanted to get a sense of how she was thinking about policy to protect working families.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, my apologies on behalf of the council member that she is not here. I know she really wanted to be here, but budget hearings are happening in City Hall right now. And if you weren't tuned in, this one was a doozy. And so she really felt like her presence, she needed her to be there. And yeah, so for folks who aren't familiar with Councilmember Brooks, she's the minority leader in Philadelphia City Council. She's the first member of the Working Families Party ever to be elected to Philadelphia City Council. She's a national leader in the Working Families Party, and she's also a leader in Local Progress, which is a network of municipally elected officials across the country who are sharing best practices around the kinds of policies and legislation that impact people in cities. So to your point, your question about work, I think that's something that's really important to the council member. And it's funny because on the way over here, I was talking to somebody who is in our office now, but worked for many years for Blue Cross. and was telling me that there were a lot of layoffs, and that the reason there were a lot of layoffs is because they now have what they're calling the universal agent that can answer all of your questions for you about your healthcare coverage. And so they don't need real people to talk on the phone anymore. And so there were a lot of folks, and these are folks who are neighbors of the council members in Nicetown who lost jobs because of that. And I think there's a question around whether people are recognizing or seeing that connection. Are they saying, because of AI, it's harder for me to get a job now? Because of AI, I lost my job? I think there are pockets and places, definitely, like where people are seeing that. And one thing that comes to mind in the council members' work is we work really closely in our office with Unite Here, Local 274, which is the union for a lot of the service workers in Philadelphia who work in concessions, for example, at the different sports venues down in South Philly. And there was a moment where the employers were saying, we want to bring in these self-serve kiosks so that everybody, and I know you all have seen them, or you can just order your food for yourself, so we don't need real people to do this work anymore. And the union, because they were organized, because the workers were organized and they knew what was coming, they said, okay, maybe, yeah, we'll allow some of these self-serve kiosks, but we also are going to get, what we would like in return is that every order that is placed on that kiosk has auto gratuity to us as the workers. And so there's ways to flip the script a little bit and say, how is this technology working for workers? Because I think generally the council member would say that if we're looking at these new technologies, the whole reason to develop new technology is to make people's lives better. And so how is this technology making people's lives better? How is it bringing down rent? How is it bringing up wages? Because people don't care. I think very similar to what Rep. Parker was saying, people don't care if they have a chatbot that can answer questions if they can't pay their bills and they're working 40, 50 hours a week, or they can't find a job. None of that matters.
Right.
And the last thing I just wanted to say on behalf of the council member is we actually have had some legislation in city council
that's great.
that touches on this. It's not directly related, but Council Member Nicholas O'Rourke, who is Council Member Brooks's sort of counterpart in council because he's also with the Working Families Party. So she's the minority leader, he's the minority whip. He introduced legislation last year to ban algorithmic rental price fixing. And it was successful, right? So the legislation passed. And it looks at, okay, we know there are these big companies and that they are artificially raising people's rents because they know they can get away with it, essentially, right? Because these are gentrifying neighborhoods. And that's banned in Philadelphia now because of the work of Councilmember O'Rourke.
That's great. That's great. Great.
So it's possible, right?
Yeah.
And we just need so much more of it. And I think with Councilmember Landau, who is the chair of the tech committee, I know it's really important to her. We worked with her recently on this most recent bill package around ICE out, and a big portion of that is about the city is not going to be giving any data to ICE because we know how that data is going to be used.
Can we give it up for that? That's so important.
Because it's going to be used in a racist way. It's going to be used to harm communities. Yeah, so I think that when we build popular support and when people feel really connected to what the outcomes could be for this stuff, then we can get things done on a legislative level. So thank you so much for inviting Councilmember Brooks. Really appreciate David for connecting our office. And if you ever have any questions about coming to City Council and speaking out about this stuff, for example, at a budget hearing, there's testimony tomorrow, David is definitely the expert and can help you figure that out. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, and thank you to Councilmember Brooks, who was just on board and unable to get out of those budget hearings today. With that, I want to call up Amir. Amir, you had your hand up, and Vicky, you had your hand up. Thank you. And we try to do this in 60 seconds, or generous 60 seconds.
Sure. My name is Amir DeBoer Bay Richardson. Some people know me as a hip-hop artist around the city. You said solutions.
Yes.
I think this could be a solution. I thought listening parties that have nothing to do with music, we practice listening skills. And that's an actual discipline that I've seen emerge in my work at WHYY, the library, and different civic spaces. And I was like, okay, people aren't the best listeners. And I also feel that way about music. I think that's affecting culture, art, and me. So just so many different things. And so we do listening exercises, discussions, all these different things. I stumbled into attention economy. Your ability to listen is connected to your ability to pay attention. We live inside the attention economy. Our attention is constantly scattered all the time. And so what I believe is a solution, and you hinted at it. You mentioned speed and pace, simply slowing down. It might be like a rocket science solution out there where we need all these different think tanks to pour into the yada yada and do such and so on, but it might just be slow down, chill out, meditate, convene with people, practice listening skills. That's what I think.
I feel really bad that I rushed you. Are you sure that's it? Okay, thank you. That was so valuable. Vicki, Dr. Victoria Best.
All right. Hi. Wow. So
Let's make it 90 seconds. Thank you to Amir.
hi everyone. My name is Dr. Victoria Best. I'm gonna put an MED at the end of it, and I represent a lot of spaces. Today I'm in the capacity, because I'm on company time, at the Data Collab as a representative of an initiative that the District Attorney's Office is hosting. So I am the project manager for that. But I wanted to talk about how we use data and how also that we need to think just more about social economic balance. The whole goal of the Industrial Revolution is to innovate and make us be better. However, I want everybody to be conscious that when you have a lower class of people, those people are specifically targeted to be the effects of what AI will do when you are left behind. The Industrial Revolution was an example of what that did to our people in Black and brown communities, and we are still trying to jump in ahead of what has already been done to us. And so when we talk about education, which is too really dear to my heart, I want to just say that AI has always been there, present with us. When I say that, not as a being, but as, again, as an innovation. And so now we're seeing schools where literacy levels are low, but where are those folks located at? Majority of Philadelphia is illiterate. Majority of Philadelphia is below the poverty level. So let's make it make sense. If those are the people who are unable to read, write, and to manipulate things, why do we need them to be actively educated on technology? The goal is to leave them behind. Our task is to pull them up. And so when we talk about, when we have all these conversations, we are talking about middle and upper class individuals. That bothers me on so many levels. And every space I go into, I want to make sure that we're not here all together, our middle class people, talking about the lower class people. So we need to bring them into these spaces and really identify where their challenges lie and how can we bring them up. And I'm gonna leave it there.
How do we do that though? How do we do that?
Incorporating them. We treat them like they're illiterate, and so then they get treated like they're illiterate, and so therefore their thoughts mean nothing to us. We still become the dictators. This is a hypocrisy. We want to talk about people, what they need, what we think they need,
without asking them what they
without
need.
asking them. And the vehicles that they need to get them there, and the time and the mindset shift that is going to be necessary to implement. Yes, everybody is struggling with gas, food, all of the things, right? How can I wrap myself around AI as the forefront, but yet it is still in the back of my life? I am using ChatGPT. I am getting Amazon Fresh delivered to me. They take food stamps now. I want everybody to understand, okay? So they will incorporate us, lower class people, when it's necessary to count our dollars, but not our cents, our common sense. That's the point. I'm gonna leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Victoria Best.